Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? It's a Friday afternoon, and we're here for the weekly catch-up where normally we're just kind of focusing on the pre-match, maybe doing a wee bit of pre-match press conference, predicted teams, talking about the questions that maybe come to the dugout for the team and how we're seeing the weekend, score predictions and all that good stuff. But of course, today is a very different day in a lot of ways. Celtic had their AGM today, and me personally, and just generally on the channel, like all the content that really comes out from Celtic here, I think I can kind of say this as a kind of broad stroke. We really try and put substance into it, whether it is like any of the stuff that comes out on the website as well as in the videos. We'd always want to be trying to give you guys something for your interaction, if it's something you're reading, watching, or whatever, listening, whatever else it could be possibly. And the AGM and everything that kind of goes on in the background with the fans, the board, the club, the sanction, like the bans and all the stuff that's going on at the moment, just for me personally, is not really right within what I generally would do on the videos. It's more about, the playing and all the rest of it. But the thing about the AGM is it's that absolute cross section of backroom and the pitch where everything that Celtic fans are upset with comes from on the pitch. And that's where everything should start and end, really, because it's a football team, And when it comes to football teams, everyone, especially in like UK football, widely, openly, and it's not just UK, Europe, the world, Europe especially, you know what I'm saying? Football clubs aren't just seen as companies; they're seen as like not establishments. What's the word I'm thinking of? Institutions. That's the exact word. And then the people that are the owners are the custodians of the institution. And it's about kind of carrying on the legacy of the club, of the institution that everyone is kind of buying into and is a part of and supports and cheers on through the highs and the lows and everything else. And, for that reason, that's why business and football doesn't always completely merge. It can be like oil and water in some cases, because although they are businesses, it's big business now, football as well. And we'll get into plenty of stuff around that in a moment. But it is not like any other business. And the rules of football are completely different to every other business sector, everything on the planet, bar none. Football, and I kind of joke about this with my wife quite often, but it is sincerely true. Like a world pandemic, wars, nothing stops football from happening ever. Like nothing stops football from ever happening. It will always go on. And yeah, maybe there wasn't fans in the stadium, but it happened. It still went on. And we could even talk about stuff that happens today. Ukraine national teams and Russian, like all the stuff is happening at the moment still, and even remember on, like, what was it, the 94 World Cup, where it was like America versus Iraq or something like that, or Iran. These things it's not anything kind of new in that sense. But sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there with the nations and all the rest of it, thinking about that side of things as well, because it just kind of goes into even further and bigger kind of things. But when I listened to that AGM today, and I guess that's probably the best place for us to start off, right? Because all you need to do if you're on any social media is just type in Celtic AGM and you're going to get a wash of video clips and posts and all sorts of stuff talking about it, right? But the thing about the AGM, and there's a bunch of you here live and loud. I'll put the comments up on screen so you can have your say as well. I'll get audience participation is welcome as always in this one, but I'll try and be coherent and try and keep myself on point here. But Ross Desmond is an interesting one, right? Because a lot of the stuff that, right, so it's how we do this in a kind of a seminal order, where it all kind of kicks in together. But football cannot be thought about and cannot be considered and cannot be measured like any other business other than another football team, quite frankly, right? And Celtic has its limitations. So many clubs have their own limitations, whatever they might be, regardless of what league they're in. And, they all got on with it. And that's all something that we know and we see, right? Not too many clubs around European and world football nowadays do you have this kind of family dynasty element maybe kicking into action. We've heard Desmond in the past cite his son Ross as being a really passionate Celtic fan, where he's telling his dad all about the players and the team, and and one day he sees Ross Desmond being the heir to the Desmond throne, as it were. And this is a guy beyond that mention. He's just never ever came up on my radar. And I've always quietly held a hope out that if he is like way closer to like my generation, certainly his views and opinions on things might be a bit more in line with, I guess, what I think of and what I think what a lot of you guys that join in on the content on this channel want to see is Celtic fulfilling every inch of its potential in European and world football. I'll say it again, especially with the innovations, the way things are going. And again, we'll kind of go into that in a bit deeper. So I've always kind of quietly held that little, maybe one day if Desmond just decides to, even if he's not going to sell up or whatever, if he completely like retires and gives the keys to the car to his son, maybe we're instantly going to be in better hands. I said this on Axum not too long ago, and I don't mind repeating it again. Maybe some of you guys will be able to share your own thoughts and feelings around the time. But I remember being in high school and Dermot Desmond taking control of Celtic, and the headline on the back pages of the newspapers and the front pages and everything else, because it was pre-internet, was Irish billionaire buys Celtic, right? And especially at that time, when you think, oh, Celtic have got an Irish billionaire as their owner, like what more could you ask for? It's not, and Ross kind of talks about some of this stuff in his statement, which we'll get to in a minute, because there's a great clip of it. It's only like 5 minutes long. This is the best video version of it, the one that's 5 minutes long. So we'll watch that in a wee second, and we'll kind of talk, because some of the stuff, for how much kind of quiet hope I had, it kind of sadly evaporated, because some of the stuff he talks about, again, like, we are outside observers, and I'm sure there's inside stuff that, again, we're still not privy to and maybe do help contextualize some of this. But honestly, like, this from start to finish just felt like an absolute car crash in so many ways. And for me, before we kind of get into it, I suppose Celtic is an institution, no matter who owns it. Celtic has the latent potential that it has, no matter who owns the club. We all know that. That's just kind of the way it goes with football teams, If Celtic have the season ticket demand that we currently have, I seen on the financial report that went out yesterday. I suppose I should open a tab with that on it as well. I'll go and get that on the side. That we got made like 30 million on merchandise in the last financial year, so on and so forth. It will continue to be as it is. And football itself, because of the business Celtic is involved in, now, there is a bubble with football. I think we all know it and feel it, and maybe like the very sharp end, like the Premier League and your maybe Real Madrid, Barcelona types, the mega spenders. Saudi potentially, maybe not. Maybe are victim to any sort of major bubble or anything like that. Okay, but beyond the tippy top, like the TV deals that possibly can't get any bigger, beyond them collapsing, like our TV deal, like is in no danger of collapse. Quite frankly, Celtic could probably do a better deal with making money from the broadcasting of the games, with it being in-house anyway. If they actually got their act together, they don't need the measly TV deal that's on the card. So, football is a complete growth industry. FIFA and UEFA particularly put extra value on clubs that already have the latent potential and history and support of Celtic. If there's any major competition that happens and Celtic can be a part of it, we're always going to be seen as like a welcome addition, quite frankly. And on that kind of quiet faith, I've probably held out with Ross Desmond, which is kind of dissipated today, sadly. I'll get in with some of your comments as well, because the chat is firing and I want to see what you guys are thinking and feeling. Smash the like button if you're here live and loud, by the way. It really does help a lot with the channel. And smash the hype button. You get to do that on 3 things a week, and I think this one could be a good one for hyping. So please smash the hype and the like on it as well if you're watching us live or after we've been live, of course. But again, before I really followed football to the level I do right now, again, I'm thinking about, early 2000s to the early teens. Peter Lawwell has always been a divisive figure at Celtic. And I've always stopped myself from giving absolute judgment on him, because, again, from a distance and being younger and not really knowing a lot of ins and outs, I'm happy to be schooled on by anyone who has followed things in far more detail than me over that time period. But he's always kept Celtic in the picture, whenever they've had like European football boards, like all the changes that have happened in football have came from these committees. And, like, I know we've had to qualify and all the rest of it, and we've failed. The extra reason that that's humiliating is because it gets easier and easier and easier for us to be in Europe all the time. And we have consistently drop the ball, drop the ball, drop the ball, and made our coefficient is an absolute travesty. Like, we should be in the group stages every year. See, when we talk about the comparisons with other clubs, the number one thing about Bruges and Benfica's is group stage, Champions League group stage participation. And if you want to go back, 19 out of 20 seasons or whatever, you look at Benfica, Porto, Ajax, PSV, Bruges, like all these clubs that are in the same boat as us, TV deal wise and merchandise wise, who we probably smash, season ticket wise, we smash, that we have just fallen behind on so many different ways. So, and Peter Lawwell, I think in this as well, like, he cannot be proud of how he's held himself today, sadly. And I think any good work that he has maybe ever been a part of, I think he's done a really good job of kind of overcooking it. And now, like, it's becoming a bit of a trope, isn't it? Of just times have changed, new faces, new blood is needed in some ways, So yeah, let me catch up with what you are saying. You may be shouting at me, telling me I'm barking up the wrong tree or whatever. But yeah, this, honestly, like, some of the stuff that's said in here, I could not believe what I was hearing. Like, I could not believe it. Like, genuinely. So let's listen to a bit of it, and then we can.
About the people on this stage and about the Celtic itself over recent months.
So let me 2 seconds. Let me hook my headphones up in case there's any feedback into the mic. Just in case. I don't want you guys getting bad audio off it. You have probably all seen this anyway, but just so we can interact with some bits of it, because honestly, I couldn't believe it.
About the people on this stage and about the Celtic itself over recent months. Times have challenged call for unity and understanding, as well as honest responses to reasonable questions. Yet there are those out there who seem to lie in wait for any opportunity and any small opening to stir up toxicity around the club. Let me start by dispensing with the absurd caricature some people spread about my father and state some of his Celtic credentials. He's a passionate and lifelong Celtic supporter.
Now, when I'm listening to this, and I'm sure a lot of you guys as well, like, this is a guy looking after his dad. I think we can all kind of appreciate that as a thing first and foremost. And you think, okay, he's maybe going to stand up for his dad a bit here. He's a big Celtic fan. He got involved in the club and kind of all the rest of it. But, to say that people wait for like little opportunity, like, there's so much proof in the pudding over the last couple of years of, it's not even just missed opportunity. But if you look at this, the way the team is, just been handled, like, it really is an absolute tap-in.
He first put money into Celtic more than 30 years ago when Fergus McCann asked him for help. He became the principal shareholder when Fergus sold out, and he took on the responsibility that came with that. He wants the club to be healthy, successful, and still thriving decades and even centuries from now. The board shares those desires.
You can't. I don't think they can claim the channel on something like this. This isn't copyrighted. But someone brought up a good point in the comments I did want to put up here. Like, Desmond really should have been there today, man. Shouldn't he? Like, again, yeah, I think that's kind of what I wanted to kind of say with the Sun thing. Like, it's kind of, you can kind of understand the situation and kind of respect where he's coming from to a degree. But Desmond has to be there himself at this point, and I do think as well, maybe something that's undersaid here, I think they greatly underestimated how many, and again, it's like so much of the behavior of Celtic on that level is like, you can predict it happening because it's just so obvious. And it's a big part of it is they do underestimate the qualifiers. They do underestimate, how good somebody's going to, or they overestimate how some transfers are going to pan out or how easy it is to qualify. And they probably underestimate this AGM, thinking it's just going to be the same people. Maybe there's like another 15 people that show up, but this is an extra hall in the number 7 that they had to set up an extra screen for. So there's 2 rooms of shareholders. Like, you had to be a shareholder, I think, or invited media, I suppose. I think Gordon Duncan was there to this event. So I think they grossly underestimated that. I think had they really, and again, I think that in itself really does crystallize, like, especially for me, right? When I'm saying, like, some of the things that Ross goes on to say here are so, like, biased towards your situation that you're in, or, there's a word for it, will come to me in a minute, but This just really epitomizes it. Like, how could you not know that this was going to be a huge turnout? It was going to be vociferous. It was going to be something you would have to meet head on. And like the very opening part of the statement said, is like honest answers to fair questions or something. There's like the exact same wording as on a few Celtic statements, I think, at this point, which I think, again, everyone would agree with, but that doesn't really have follow through with it, does it? I think it's quite big, by the way, the shareholder kind of element of this as well, you know, because again, it gets
and that's why the board respects financial reality. We act prudently, not recklessly. Those who accuse the club of hoarding cash or being in it for the money display a deep misunderstanding of financial responsibility.
Now, I think I do a lot of the kind of transfer, kind of forensics and stuff like that, right? And there is no getting away from it. Like, Celtic do spend money every window. Like, our win, you know, like if we, the problem, or not the problem necessarily, right? But the thing that in the times of need, Celtic fans, like particularly in this window, can't go alongside is when the money isn't spent when it's required. And again, a lot of this is quite one-sided where, like, yeah, you can look at the spend and see like, oh, we spent 30 million in the summer, but oh, do you know, we made 50 or something like that. So again, how prudent do you need to be? You know, there's so much cash reserve there. Lennoxtown is built, Barrowfield is built. You can only spend that money once.
The board has a duty of care to the shareholders, to the supporters, and to the future of this club. We don't declare dividends to distribute surplus cash to ordinary shareholders, as many other businesses do.
Now, this is something I've always wondered, right? The financials did come out yesterday, and I'm pretty sure when I looked at the financials, I don't think the dividend payout was big, by the way. Historically, I've got no idea. And again, let's call a spade a spade. Like, shareholders get dividends. Like, it's like it's whatever, you know. If it's to the detriment of the team, or you know, that's a different story. But I think really at this point, like, again, shareholders get dividends. Like, if you ever wanted someone else to control the club, why would they want to do it if there's no profit? Like, everyone needs to get a profit at some point. Everyone at least needs to enjoy it, or you know, some shareholders get dividends. Like, that's just the way it is, you know. So, but again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe again, happy to be educated. I did go into the deep financials, but I've not got a photographic memory. But I'm fairly certain I looked at it and thought, oh, it was like, you know, it wasn't in the tens of millions, certainly. Or maybe I'm wrong. But again, I'm looking at the chat in case somebody can tell me whether I'm kind of like, okay, maybe this one didn't, but before they did or whatever. So I'll keep my eyes open for that. But yeah, there's not a problem with some of this stuff. It's just a wee bit delivery, isn't it? But
cash is retained and used to sustain and develop our club. As Chris explained in the video, Celtic must maintain strong reserves and contingencies to protect against unforeseen circumstances.
Now, see, protecting for unforeseen circumstances, I can kind of get that, right? But like I've already mentioned, and we've already lived through a pandemic where football was still able to go. We have seen wars happen and football still goes on. And if anything, even it would take, so bottom line is, it would take something more extreme than war or a worldwide lockdown of a global virus pandemic to stop football. So if that's the situation we're in, who gives a blinding F about the money in the bank at that point, you know? Like, what contingencies could you possibly now not, you know, like you know, football still carries on. Football is one of those things, you know. I can't say that enough around this when it comes to the prudency around it.
That financial strength is what gives us independence, stability, and the ability to make our own decisions and not to be beholden to anyone else.
Now, I love that as an ethos, by the way. See, that is part of like a mantra of how a club, a company, everything should work. I think we can get along with that last sentence, you know, that you're not beholden to the banks and you've not got like fearsome shareholders that demand massive payouts, or, you know, people on directors' loans. And, you know, there's so many other financial mechanisms that dictate clubs' decision making. Let's see the now when you hear about the top end clubs that have to do all these extra fixtures and these promotional games. That's because they've signed away their soul to the devil. You know, they've signed up to crazy sponsorship deals, and it means Man United playing Singapore the day after the Premier League finishes, or, you know, all these other crazy things that go on. And maybe that's a bit more of a kind of lighthearted example, but I don't mind that last sentence. But again, like, these things don't need to be in the extreme. And again, like, I can't say it enough. Like, what are you? Celtic are more than fine. The season tickets aren't going anywhere. The merchandise isn't going anywhere. The Champions League has only got bigger. The FIFA Club World Cup thing, who knows if we could ever get into that at some point, you know what I mean? Just the way these things go and expand over time. But again, football is a mad growth situation. The bubble, if it bursts, I don't think it comes anywhere near us. And even if it did, how strong are we if a bubble bursts because of all these things? We could still get bank loans. We could still blah, blah, blah. Pull all these levers financially. We're so far out of that, it's untrue. So it's a position of strength, and it's not like to further compound in or further, it's to like kick on at this point. Make more money, you know. And this is this thing I kind of said last year with like them, hopefully their greed, or not greed necessarily in this context, I suppose it's not been spoken in that regard, but their frugal, their conservative nature kind of being loosened, because the Champions League is like easy peasy for Celtic to get into, you know, by all measure of things, compared to a Premier League team, a Serie A team, etc. And the payout is pretty damn good, you know, for the situation where we're in. And yeah, like, all it takes is just a bit more conviction, a bit more confidence, and just pushing the boat out a little bit. Again, the training, and there's something else you've seen in a second I want to pick up on.
Those who talk about the club not having kicked on in Europe since 2003 ignore the enormous change in the financial landscape of football.
The enormous change in the financial landscape of football. Champions League money is going through the roof. We have access to that. And in terms of everything else in the financial sense, Celtic are also the ones selling trainers for 100 quid, also selling kits for 130 quid, etc., etc. Celtic don't really pay any punishment on the change in the economy of world football. We've actually done really well at being like against inflation, or whatever the financial term would be for it, to the extent where we have profited, because we only pay $1.5 million for Matt O'Reilly and so on and so forth, and then we can sell for 30 million into Premier League money. We've done very well by that. So this statement again kind of flies in the face of the situation we're in. This isn't, you know, what does the current financial landscape stop us doing right now? It doesn't stop us, you know, buying it, you know, anyone. We can spend, you know, we spent money on Engels. We broke our transfer record. We could do it again if we wanted. Players will play for teams like us if you pay them money. It's been seen so often, it's not even true. And I'm just trying to keep up with the chat. So some of you are chatting to each other, and I want to see if there's anything I can add into the conversation overall. But yeah, it's just such a big disconnect on, like, where, like, you're thinking, I think this guy, Ross Desmond, is just so stuck in like the IRL business side of things, where, again, I'll let the tape roll.
In that period, it has created a gap which keeps growing.
It doesn't really keep growing. Yeah, the TV deals for the Premier League keeps growing. Maybe Serie A, Bundesliga are growing now at a good rate or something, but every other metric, we're not. I don't think we're being outpaced by competitors significantly. If anything, the thing with Midtjylland and Qarabag and Bodo Glimt and Kairat Almaty and Midtjylland and Malmo and Molde and all these teams over the years, is they don't have that. We do, you know, like, we should be able, you know.
Show that respect. Not just respect us. Listen, you don't want the whip to keep the clothes. I take it. Behave.
I don't think he's going to be proud of that, is he? That's probably like, he totally regrets that, eh? I can't really say anything on this. It's not been said already, man. It speaks volumes, sadly. It's getting like Demon Head teacher vibes about it, I think, doesn't it? This is a shareholder meeting.
It has created a gap which keeps growing and challenges any club playing in smaller European league. Most supporters understand that. Of course, clubs can still punch above.
Of course, clubs can punch above their weight, Brown Warrior. They have a turnover of 30 million. Our turnover in the last financial report is 142 million. Now, again, that's not been the case for the last 15 or 20 years. It's a growth industry we're in. Everything's growing. Everything's getting paid more money, except for Celtic buying players. It's the only thing that has been frozen in time, like a time capsule. And our whole approach to squad construction, ambitions to doing anything is frozen in time.
Of their financial weight, and we should aspire to that. But if you swing and miss, you risk the very stability of the club, and that would be.
That's just not true in so many ways. And you know, see, even if you want to, let's roll the tape in a wee second.
Profoundly irresponsible. The financial independence of this club was jeopardised in the mid-1990s, and we must never allow ourselves to fall into that position again. We constantly strive to improve, to become more competitive, and to go deeper into Europe, and there's no doubt we get things wrong and we make mistakes, and we try to learn from them. Our model is far from perfect, but for the most part, it has served this club well over the past 20 years. So we will not be bullied by aggressive, irrational factions. We will not be.
There's putting your credentials on the line and saying, do you know what? We've done pretty okay. Nobody's perfect. And I don't mind that if it's backed up with this is, you know, the change, or we've now see, you know, like, I don't get what the bill, like, again, you don't know what these people receive directly to their person. So it's kind of hard to, you know, but I don't know where the bullying thing comes from personally. Again, anything we ever cover on this channel, it's stark in contrast to contemporaries, to colleagues, to parallels, wherever you want to think of them, across European and world football. And like, the success Celtic has had is not noteworthy, really, since 2003. The gap has widened on transfer fees for the top end of the game, but the middle to bottom end of the game, where we have been shopping and we should be moving up our scope on where we shop, hasn't really moved that, you know, in the grand scheme of things, really that far away, really, in all seriousness.
Railroaded by those whose only vocation in life is to be anti-establishment, and by those who try to degrade the club.
Now, sadly, when I did hear Ross Desmond say people, you know, they call the people bullies, and they say that it's their main vocation in life to be anti-establishment. Like, I don't know, man. It just feels like quite a revealing statement, and I didn't like hearing it, to be honest with you. I thought that's, you know, this is like a personal thing. The way you see people, you've got an opinion on, rather than it's fans and it's for football and it's for the team, and, you know, like, nobody knows you, mate. Nobody knows your dad. Nobody knows Peter Lawwell. Nobody knows Michael Nicholson, other than being in Celtic as a chairman, as a whatever, you know, each of them are. And it's quite simply just the you know, doing the task at hand is all anyone really cares about, you know, is all I can talk about. And I think when I just didn't enjoy hearing that. I thought that was I don't know if unnecessary is even the way of putting it, but like, yeah, I didn't like hearing it.
Our focus is on what matters, improving this club step by step, systematically, without ever risking its future. Improving recruitment, investing in data analytics, upgrading facilities, enhancing the stadium, and trying to make Celtic stronger in every way. Criticism and advice are welcome and the right of every supporter, but some of what we've seen recently is not constructive, it is destructive and cynical. All it does is strengthen our resolve.
But that's not true, you know, because everything they've seen recently is down to Celtic's failure to qualify for the Champions League, after we've posted record turnovers, after we've just did all the transfer model stuff. You get some things right, some things wrong, some players have worked out well, and quite simple. Again, if you want to think of it in the business sense of it, you take the football element out of it, capitalism, shareholders, stock market, share prices. Somebody, you know, like in any other business, football team even, look at so many football teams, this failure would result in somebody losing their job. Now, Brendan Rodgers is no longer in a job, and they never really even got the opportunity to even scapegoat him, if that was maybe even on the menu for today. We'll never know, I suppose. But to act like it's bullying or whatever, like, it's just not on. Like, if we could get another season of 8 Champions League games this year, if we went into the market and bought some good players, 142 million is on the sheet this year. It's not going to be that next year, because we don't have Champions League money and the fans have boycotted the merch. so on and so forth. Europa League tickets are dead easy to get. I'm hearing about, you know, like they're still selling them and all the rest of it. So again, I think there's a real detachment on, I don't want to say reality, but there's no other word for it.
To protect the integrity and stability of Celtic Football Club. Our board, led by Peter, and our executive, led by Michael, are dedicated Celtic people. The intent is to dehumanise them and vilify.
And again, I think I'm quite consistent on this channel. I can only imagine that surely they're all thinking, I work for Celtic, I've got to do the best job possible. Like, I don't think anyone is trying to be bad or like is like sabotaging anything or whatever. But the results speak for themselves. And again, if we're like, Celtic is an institution, you know, it's not a company. It's not your startup. It's not a family business. It's not a company you've taken over, hostile takeover kind of thing or whatever. It's an institution, you know, and I just think quite simply results speak for themselves, don't they?
Are shameful. These are people with families. They love the club every bit as much as anyone here. And when we're not performing, they suffer just as much as anyone. They work tirelessly.
Okay, fair.
Often under intense pressure. They do an outstanding job for this club, and we are very lucky to have them. Of course, we are not blind to our shortcomings. We can communicate better, we can recruit better, we can compete better, but we will do it responsibly, sustainably, and always in the best interest of Celtic.
This isn't an oil and gas company. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? There's 77 million readies in the bank. We're probably due some payments and some sell-ons, so we'll just fall into our lap, you know? And we're probably going to sell Dyson Maeda for a few quid. Rio Hitate's probably not long out the door for a few quid. You're going to lose cash for Schmeichel's wage and probably use Sinisalo.
Celtic was founded as a club open to all, and we have a tradition of having the greatest fans in the world. We must now protect that reputation that was created over generations. The behaviour of certain sections increasingly brings the club and its fan base into disrepute. The incident a few weeks ago at the Falkirk match was symptomatic of wider behaviour.
Now, saying that the fans bring the club into disrepute again, I think is quite loaded, you know. I don't know about you, right? But honestly, see, for my entire life, until the day I die, no matter how bad things get, that video of if you hate the royal family, clap your hands. That video will always end me. And, you know, that's maybe putting a bit of a light-hearted spin on kind of what I'm getting at. But the Celtic fans, I don't think are... Like, I see plenty of fan bases across the world, like Marseille fans and guys in Greece and all sorts of places that are like wild, like Lazio fans fighting people in the streets and all that, and muggins and all the rest of it. You know, so like, I don't think Celtic fans are anywhere near that realm of ultra fan group in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, there's some flares at some games. Yeah, there's some political chants and tifos and all the rest of it. But really, see, beyond that, and yeah, the Falkirk game, the thing he's referencing, I'm not really across that. I know it's like I know there's not conclusive footage, and they say this, they say that, and she said, isn't it? But again, like, this isn't typical behaviour. Like, really, when do you ever hear of this? And I don't know, man. I'm just like, what? Like, what?
These people are bullies, and they try to hijack the name of Celtic sports. We cannot allow them to define who we are.
You know, I just don't get this, man.
On this stage.
Oh, sorry, I jumped back there.
These people are bullies, and they try to hijack the name of Celtic sports. We cannot allow them to define who we are. I'm well aware of the time I put my back by saying this.
I'm going to have to apologise to those shareholders that are here today. You have the best interests of the club at heart. particularly those that have a question, they would want to ask it later on. But because of the disruption, we're going to draw the meeting to a close.
Yeah. So I'll put that there now. But I just, like I said at the tip off, like I did hold some quiet hope that, you know, maybe the next in line to the throne, as it feels now, would be a bit more cognizant of just there's nothing wrong with the team. The team's kind of all right, isn't it? I think we all support Celtic. We all want the guys to win at the weekend. We'll all be cheering for them, no matter who's going to go and play. But in the grand scheme of everything, like we did a video the other day on the channel looking at the strikers and the movement that Celtic's done in the transfer window since the season that will not be named. And we had, kind of like a line in the sand moment. Edward left, Ayer left. We had to kind of clear out. And Celtic has made like some really good business. We did some really great stuff for the most part. But over that period, even, there's been opportunities to strengthen from a position of strength. And again, we find ourselves in that position and it's just been failed to be capitalised upon. And that's just the number one thing. Celtic fans now see that the gap that, and again, Celtic fans have not always felt this way. And I think the views and opinions that we've seen expressed there are just out of date, because I think Celtic fans 10, 15 years ago would quite happily agree that, hey, stay in your lane. You can't compete with the money out there now. But that divide is really closed because I say now we're now paying 120 quid for a kit. You're now paying 100 quid for trainers. You're now paying all this money for a season ticket. And the TV deal with inflation has went up like a little bit, and all the kit deals and everything else that's come in. And you're selling Jota to Saudi Arabia for 30 million. You're selling O'Reilly to the Premier League for 30 million. You're getting kickbacks for Frimpong years after selling him. And again, that merry-go-round will go on and continue to happen. And to act like, again, we've not just had like a pandemic and seen people play, like what more could Celtic be safeguarding for football-wise at this point, business-wise? Like what could possibly happen where the short term, the immediate term of the club is in super dire straits? Where, like, are we talking about like losing the entire squad like overnight, like somehow the entire squad vanishes and you need to rebuild the team? So the entire squad, the entire staff, everyone leaves tomorrow. I don't know, like I just don't get where, like, some of the stuff they say is perfectly fine and reasonable, but it doesn't match up with other things that they say. And again, that's where so much of the frustration comes from, because it just feels like there's a big disconnect, and it feels like there's either something that they just don't see. There's clearly some things that I don't think they get about Celtic fans in general, it seems like, sadly. But when it comes to other teams in football, like, like, it just, I don't know, it's so crazy. But again, like, you can only imagine that they're Celtic fans and they just want the absolute best. But again, like I said before and mentioned it previously, like it's an institution situation where, if this was like, forget it being a football club, multi-millions of pounds and a company and shareholders that buy it and all the rest of it. And yeah, like I say, shareholders get dividends. That's just kind of par for the course, isn't it? But imagine it was just like the local football team that nobody really owned. If somebody was doing a really bad job as chairman, is in charge of signing players, as a man, people change, it's musical chairs at football clubs for the most part. And someone not working out as CEO or any of these positions, I don't want to name them specifically, but any one of them, it's not mad. It's not a huge like crime against humanity or, anything like that. It's again, like football, the best players play for the best teams. The best players cost more money. The best players earn more money. It's the same in every walk of life. And Celtic to be what it is, like, again, like I said before, like there's only like one guy that can be the Celtic manager, but out of all the people that could be doing so many of the other positions, like, with the results we've had, do we have the best ones for the situation? I think is where all Celtic fans can lay at the moment. And there was something else I did kind of want to finish on, by the way. Yeah, I think sadly, I think they're going to be very glad that the meeting ended without questions or whatever, because I think there would have been so much that would have came out from questions in this one, and I'm really gutted that they didn't happen. Do they need to re-adjourn them? Do they need to recall the meeting at some point? I don't know. Again, if any of you guys are quite savvy in that sense, feel free to get me up to speed. But just because this kind of really does cross over with like the football situation of where the club is in the real terms of the European game and whatever, I just, again, like, I think Celtic is so close to just being everything that we would want it to be as fans, you know, the best version of itself. Again, Celtic fans are all quite reasonable, but we can see that we're in a really good position. We can see that there is massive gains that could be gotten very quickly, very easily, and that could be the new normal. You know, you kind of move yourself up the kind of food chain, as it were. And with the, again, like, football is it's not as if we're in a recession industry or something that's really like, oh, nobody's really turning up to games anymore, and oh, nobody's really buying merchandise anymore. Nobody really cares about football anymore. It's kind of like yesterday's news. Football is the number one thing in the world. End of, you know, like, and again, this mentality of doomsday. Like, I get it to a point, but now it's like, come on, man, like, really, like, still, you know. And yeah, so I kind of I just kind of get away from everything they say, and again, some of the things like bullies and vocation to be anti-establishment and stuff like that. Comments that are just like, this is an AGM, isn't it? It's just all shareholders. It's meant to be formal. This is like the son of the major shareholder. I want to defend my dad. Like, he's a good Celtic man. This is what we've tried to do. By the way, we've dropped the ball. And you know what? Let's pin the tail on the donkey for whoever it is. And whoever it is isn't going to be here anymore. Or maybe it was Brendan or whatever it was. And, you know, we hear you. We take, and again, they even said that it's welcome, you know, advice and criticism. So if they are listening, I hope, you know, they take this as in good faith as it's meant to be, you know. But Celtic is just like, Celtic's massive, you know, Celtic is massive, and Celtic can take being massive very quickly. Like, if, again, one of the major things Celtic fans have been talking about, if they would have been talking about even more if the stuff this season wouldn't have happened, would have been building the stadium. Sell us more tickets. Let us buy all the merch. You know, Celtic fans are desperate to spend money on the team. Celtic fans are desperate to back the team. You know, like, so I just don't get the whole regressive mentality where that is born from. As I say, like, especially with the fact that we've actually lived through a global pandemic and you've seen how things went then. So that's now like the model, is it not? For like, that's where expenses went to, that's where, you know, liabilities are and whatever else. And I just kind of get by that. I'm trying my best to keep up with the chat, but it's moving so fast, and I'd love to bring in as many comments as possible. I did also promise we would do a bit of preview into the St Mirren game, but what I've not seen is, now I've seen Martin O'Neill, his comments on the AGM. Again, I found it very, very bad form, very bad crack that someone else from Celtic didn't talk to the media afterwards. Again, hiding behind the manager's coattails a little bit here. Yeah, there's Martin O'Neill there 2 hours ago. I've not heard it, so I think we'll give that a wee listen so we can get into the game. How long we've been on for? And this is on. Did tell the. Okay, let's see. We'll do our best to get through it. And yeah, I think that's a sad thing. You kind of know. Yeah, it's very, I think a lot of it is revealing. I think that's where a lot of the frustrations you could feel in the room was coming from, because it's like, is this for real? Like, I can't believe they're sticking by some of this stuff. And yeah, they kind of hold their hands up, but they very quickly, like, where's, you know. But Martin O'Neill's statements afterwards, I thought, again, was just, again, it's kind of hard to go into forensically without getting the clips up and whatever, but he's kind of got to do his best, hasn't he? He's kind of been thrown to the slaughter. I'm not really prepared to hold too much of it against him beyond, like, did they need to mention Jock Stein and try and pull on the kind of history of the club element? Because the history of the club it's more about the immediate history of the last 10, 15 years, whatever it is, you know. But again, you've got to imagine, especially the way they're talking, that they have a resolve for history to prove them right. They have a resolve to come out in the wash, like as the winners of the conversation, If they plan on sticking it, they plan on following through with all the plans and everything that they're saying, then surely like anyone they're talking to is saying, don't worry, mate, you've got 25 mil. Go get the fans back on our team, kind of thing. Because again, it's the fans, it's not a company, it's a football team. This is an institution of people. Yeah. Let's see what Martin's saying. Nice suit, by the way. Nice suit. And I did say for the beginning of the last game, I did feel that Martin O'Neill, the manager, kind of returned a little bit. We had Martin O'Neill, the pundit, it felt like for the first match in a bit. And then there was a kind of switch moment where he was like, hold on a minute, man. Like, don't let people have you as a caricature. Like, be Martin O'Neill. So nice to see that kind of now. But again, comments about the AGM to one side.
Things there at the annual general meeting that you witnessed. What did you make of it all?
Do you know what I thought? And I thought it was a really sad morning, really sad morning. And I've just done a little interview there where I mentioned, I just wonder what the great Jock Stein would have thought of it all, who preached unity at the football club, said that a club not united would never be successful. And it was really sad, I must admit. It's as sad a morning as I've seen. I mean, I've been to a few of these AGMs before, and I suppose because we'd been doing well at the time that it was nice. Not even sure I was ever asked a question in them at the time, but that was rather raucous.
Peter did warn the floor a couple of times that if the behaviour didn't improve, then he'd be left with no option. Did he have no option?
Well, it looked that way, really, because no one was being heard. And I think that there were an awful lot of people in the room who would have wanted to have asked questions, and I think the board, listen, I'm not an apologist for the board. I'm here on an interim basis. I am privileged to be here for a second time, as I was for the first time as well, too. But, there were people who had wanted to have asked questions, and the board have said that they've made mistakes. They've, and I think there's only so many times that you can apologize, and then, you have to get on with things again, so we'll start again. And hopefully that will start when the new manager comes in. A united Celtic that will be far better equipped to compete and try and win again.
Do you think that's possible after seeing scenes like that this morning?
It shouldn't be impossible. It should not be impossible. I think that there's got to be a coming together again from this, and the success at the football club over the last 20 odd years has been obviously there for all to see, I must admit. But it wasn't great, and in fact it was quite poor. But at the end of it all, I feel as if that there's an obvious disconnect at this minute, but that surely can be rectified.
That disconnect, obviously, Martin, was evident way before you came back for a second time. Did you think with your arrival that perhaps could have forged some sort of connect again?
Well, that would be asking a lot.
I really hope this whole press conference isn't about the AGM. Kind of want to know about some of the players, to be honest. But will we get it or not? Who knows? It's kind of fair game to ask Martin about it a bit, but we need to get some pre-match into this. Come on. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. He has kind of been put in there as the shield, hasn't he? But again, like, I don't think I think everyone would agree there's a middle ground in here where the fans is like, I think broadly kind of see that the club is thriving, is in a good place. Like, I don't think anyone really disagrees with that. But the main problem is like again, there's just been no push on. There's no ambition. There's no like attempt to move the team on when we're in a strong position. You know, like see when he says like, you know, you can take a swing and a miss, and if you miss, it destabilizes the club and whatever. We've been in positions where like if we, I don't know. Again, I don't want to go into exact windows and all that type of stuff. It's not really the show for today for doing that. But there are certain points where if we just bought one more really good player, our team would have been wildly more competitive in the Champions League. And for the Bayern Munich season, and even for maybe one of Ange's stints, it was sorely needed and could have been wildly different and could have changed the success pattern there going forward. And with that being the bar, that has to be, you know, some of these teams we've done recently, the striker video that went out the other day, you guys hit the 400 likes. The winger video is done and dusted. I just need to double check the edit, and we'll maybe even put that out tomorrow morning, the winger video, where we go through the movement of the transfers, guys we've had and sold, how much money we've made, goal contributions have provided when they've been here, etc. Is, you know, like we've often had really hot spells and then it goes really cold, and another area is compensated for it. And it's very rare that we've had all cylinders firing, you know, and pulling in the one direction. Like, see the Bayern Munich team, imagine we had Matt O'Reilly in it. You know, for example, Kuhn, Maeda on form, Kyogo up front. You know, that team had been kind of cooking and developing for a little bit. Jota back in the picture, you know, like if we'd had the ambition to just bring Jota back or get another player at that level, and, you know, we're not far away from being like a superb team for the level we're at. And then, like, let's go for it. Your players can sell for more money. We can all have more fun, win more stuff, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. Hope this isn't all AGM chat.
A lot of
Just in terms of what you mean to the supporters.
Well, naturally, it's nice, and I've had a really decent reception, which I am pleased about. That could end very, very quickly. You know, you have to win football matches in this to keep things going. But I just, you know, what I do, I look.
Someone said be real, right? Okay, I get that. Okay, but if we were run better, we would have situations where me saying that would be real, if you get me. Like, I'm with you, but it's unreasonable to imagine us not selling O'Reilly, or not. It's even not even the selling O'Reilly, but imagine you actually had replaced him properly, and then you had that team that played Bayern, for example. Because Engels was great in that game, don't get me wrong. Hatate did good, so on and so forth. But, like, you know, like I'm saying, one part of the team, when O'Reilly was hot, O'Reilly was the best player on the team, you know. And, you know, the wings have had hot and cold spells, as is the striker position. That's my main point I'm trying to get here. Sorry. And I'm just saying, imagine that would maybe being real, you know.
I look around. I've gone to Lennoxtown, and I remember traveling to Lennoxtown in 2005, just before I left, where they were thinking about moving to a new ground. It was just the big Castley sort of thing up there, and just a set of fields. And I go up there now, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and the players they have everything. You know, it's there. The pitches are immaculate. They are so well looked after. So well looked after now. So there have been.
See, one thing that I didn't pick up on the Ross Desmond section is he spoke about how the idea isn't just Celtic being sustainable for decades but centuries. I love hearing that, right? And on that basis, right? See this thing that's just been opened up at Barrowfield. See if it turns out that it is like that place has to be super state of the art, number one. And number two, see at this point, see if we're not going to spend money on players and all the rest of it, and we are thinking about centuries, we really should be extra super committed to making Champions League players, as the club likes to say, and a bit of investment into just general Scottish football, philanthropically, if that's how you say it, would be very advantageous to Celtic if they're thinking about that sort of time scale. Like, see if, like, how much is the quality version of VAR and all to have the right amount of cameras in all the teams and all the clubs or whatever? I've got no idea. Cameras don't need to be that big nowadays. I find it hard to imagine. Logistically, it's impossible for some of these stadiums. I know the Motherwell one a few years ago, it said like, oh, it was really tricky because of camera angles and where they could possibly be. But I think if you got a really good state of the art version for like the stuff that we care about, which is like actual offside, like really like 3D offsides and goal line decisions, and like in the box, out the box, pay all the money to get that stuff supercharged, and just accept it as like a donation to the country, you know, to the league, to make sure then that all our matches are ref better, means all the players that come through hopefully play at a better level. Do something like that if you're thinking about that kind of level, like philanthropically. Again, I'll say it that way until I'm told to say it a different way. Maybe help Scotland a bit more, the game itself, because if you're thinking that long, you know, Scottish football's vastly underinvested.
Changes, and that's obviously cost a lot of money. We trained at Barrafield way back 20 odd years ago, and sometimes when they were rolling out the tarpaulin, their tarpaulin would go to about -4, but if it was -7, then we had a frozen pitch. But you know what? It didn't matter. I never heard Henrik Ladd's words. Listen, you know.
He's right to say what he said, and do you agree with what he said?
He has every right to say.
Seem to tip it for some share.
So never listen to a word I say. So, but if given the opportunity, which it might have occurred
for some shareholders on the floor, he was defending the board. He was defending his father. Was he right to say what he said? And do you agree with what he said?
He has every right to say what he said. Absolutely. And again, this is the point. I got this job 25 years ago because of one man, really, and he brought me in when he had bigger names to choose from, you know, people who club, and the money that he has put in himself is, you know, sometimes those things are forgotten.
Last one from me, Mark.
We had a little cup of tea in the boardroom afterwards, and I think there was just probably. I think they were expecting a tough time, but I think there's a bit of shock as well around the room.
So they didn't.
I think we've got past the AGM stuff. You know, like it's just a sad, and again, like they're custodians of an institution, you know, like, and when you're getting that reaction from shareholders, again, I'm waiting for anyone to fact check me. Everyone in attendance was an actual shareholder, weren't they? A representative of such, I think. You can't stay in situ, can you? Something has to change, somebody, you know.
Didn't see anything like that coming. They just expected some sort of hard questions, but not that.
I got that impression. Yeah, that's right. And I think that the impression would have been to at least have the opportunity for shareholders to ask some questions about the board and about where the football club is going on from here. So maybe try and learn from the past. If the past is recent, then that's we've got to try and learn from it.
Well, I'm just going to your position now. You surprised to be here again for another pre-match press conference, or you? Well,
the only one thing I would definitely guarantee, I'll not be around for the next AGM. So that is, which actually may be rearranged for next week again, you know. So I will definitely not be around for that. And I might not even be around for that. Around. So this young man's having a laugh, you know. It's all right, very well. I wish I was your age again, young man. Nothing great about getting old. Nothing great about it at all.
Doing it very gracefully, Noel.
Pardon?
You're doing it very gracefully.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you, young man. Yeah. I wish I looked like you. So it'd be all right. So, getting back to your point, I think that, I'm still here. I'm probably a bit surprised that I am. I thought maybe something might have got sorted out in the international break, but and I think that there is definitely progress being made in that field. Yeah. So bad news. You and I will not be around much longer. All right. Okay. So, but I would.
Martin, come on.
I don't think it'll be a surprise to me if they announce somebody about midnight tonight, you know, so I'm going to be there for the game tomorrow night.
Have you managed to focus on the game tomorrow night, Mark? Because obviously, when the international break...
They do like to drop an announcement and then leave the office, don't they? we could get a 6 o'clock manager announcement. We'd not put it past them maybe at this point.
Started, as you said, you thought maybe something might have changed, but have
I just put my focus on it, on working in the understanding that I'm here until I'm told not to be, and but I'm naturally still surprised, I must admit. But yeah, I'll just focus on that.
What do you expect tomorrow night?
Oh, right, the very obvious, really tough game. I went to watch them against Hibs, to sides that we have in consecutive weeks, and and although they lost the game, could have gone. They had some decisions that VAR. Can anybody explain the VAR up here? No,
How long have you got? How long have you got?
Well, it depends which line you look at, doesn't it? Really? Yeah. Or really? Yeah. It really does, So that's the job I want. It's the job I want, just to be able to draw some cricket lines and some team I don't want to win. And so, yeah, it'd be brilliant. I'd love it. Please, would you put me forward for that? Thank you.
Martin, you're saying that you're kind of still you're surprised to be taking the team tomorrow. Have you been given a definitive as to how long you will be in position?
No, I think that things will should hot up in the next year and a half.
Yeah, it should be normal for sure. But again, that's part of maybe like the changing landscapes and evolution, because like Martin O'Neill said, it wasn't always a done thing. And I think, I think we got onto Lennoxtown in a nice kind of spot. It was like a good kind of move by the club. And I think they've even expanded it over the years as well. And I think by all accounts, it's very much in standard, in line with what you'd find in the Premier League, from what Callum McGregor said about one of those anecdotes when Brendan Rodgers first came in. So, yeah, the one thing I'm worried about Barrowfield is that it's a bit basic. Like if Barrowfield should be state of the art, especially if they're thinking about club sustainability for decades to centuries. Barrowfield should be Bundesliga state of the art stuff that's on in there.
No, I'm kidding. It's just a rubbish joke.
Will this be your last game, or
no? It could well be, and it could well be. And if we lost the game, then this is the point. Not only am I going sort of like game by game in that sense, and a new manager coming in, but obviously you can outstay your welcome here as well. To you lose the games, and people will want to try and make a change pretty quickly then after that, which I understand, because we're in the results business. We have to try and win.
On a different subject, how pleased were you for Kieran Tierney?
Do you know what? Much as I loved my time
Oh, guys, we're going to get more international Martin
in Scotland, and I did do. I can't always say I was cheering the national side on all the time. I thought it was brilliant. I thought the victory, we went to the game, and I thought it was great. And I really, most successful Scottish manager, this is heading in. And much more now. So that might be ridiculous. I would have, well, honestly, yeah, I could have sent a substitute instead, So,
Martin, just wrapping that up then, just on that, on a serious.
Go from off the floor now. So that might be more difficult. And the minute left his foot, I thought, this is heading in. 3 great goals, if you include McTominay's. Fourth goal might not have happened, and Kieran hadn't scored. So brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So we have to now pick up Smigel from off the floor now. So that might be more difficult than you think. But we'll see how he is. I haven't had a chance today because we're training this morning. So what a time to organise an AGM. Ridiculous. If I'd known it was going to last only 4 minutes, then I would have, well, honestly, yeah, I could have sent a substitute instead, So.
Martin, just wrapping that up then, just on that, on a serious note, how do you think Celtic, the club, and Celtic, the supporters, sort this situation out?
Man, no, I'm not listening to any more of that. So we actually learned zero about Celtic's preparation for the game, who could be playing, who could be featuring. So really, your guess is as good as mine. I looked at the training video that went out earlier today. This is the squad that's available for it. Schmeichel wasn't in training, and he did make the comment there about having to pick him up off the floor. Sinisalo's been in training and he has been itching to get some first team minutes. And I think this week, more than most, I would lift Sinisalo maybe even into it's maybe like 1/3 of the possibility that he plays at the weekend. You know, Schmeichel, since he's been at the team, has been trusted to manage himself in terms of training days and rest days, etc. at the stage of the career he's at. But I think Sinisalo is probably in the 20-30% kind of range where he could play. I wouldn't rule it out entirely, but I think Schmeichel's almost certainly going to play ultimately. But I definitely want to put that out there as something that could happen because again, some of you guys in the chat think it could happen. I wouldn't rule it out. St Mirren away, but is no mug situation. You want your best team, especially if you're Martin O'Neill. We're in the results business, not the sentiment business. So I think it probably will be Schmeichel, but Sinisalo's in the running, I think. It's probably the best way of putting it. Now, another thing I noticed from training videos, by the way, Inamura, every time I've seen Inamura in Celtic training content, he looks happy. He looks really engaged in whatever's going on. But in this one, I don't know, him and Tierney, we all know the story of Tierney coming through at Celtic and like looking up to Nakamura and getting his boots and that kind of stuff. And I don't know, man. This just feels like, I don't know, him and Inamura, I don't know. Inamura's in the squad, I think, for the weekend. Sirachi's out injured. There might be a change of shape happening. I think it's all hands on deck defensively. Liam Scales wasn't pictured in training, but again, I think we could expect him to start the game as well. Austin Trusty was there, I'm sure, as well as we've seen Dane Murray. He's not going to start the game. JSP was in the building, as was Ralston and Donovan. Now, I think we were all worried about Donovan coming into this game, so he got a really bad injury under 21s, but he's training and he's in the squad. Again, he's not really been anywhere near anything since Martin O'Neill's came in, so I'll just kind of slide him off to the side here. I think right back is a straight fight out between Ralston and JSP, and I think with the way Trusty played in and behind Scales and JSP, that kind of that quasi back three that we had in the last match that we played, I think that may be the preferred shape. I could see them maybe going for Ralston because against St Mirren, maybe you want someone that's a bit more wide, to maybe cover for, like if Dyson Maida's going to play on this wing, for example, will be a bit more narrow. But I think he's going to go back to JSP. Yeah, I think he looks at, like, St Mirren have got some bodies, they're quite physical. Big Mandarin up front. The other guy up front's a bit of a unit. I forgot his name, Inlandula or something. Big Killian Phillips is a giant. Gogic at the back, etc. So I could see JSP coming in just on, a bit of form from the first game he started, then he get taken off because of minute management, just kind of working himself in. I think he keeps his spot. I think he comes in at right back here. Trusty and Scales as the centre backs, and Tierney's good to go. Didn't play very much for Scotland, but it was very much worthwhile. But we could see the return of Inamura at the weekend for me. Would not rule it out at all. And was it Huddle Breakdown? I'm sure it was Huddle Breakdown. It could have been somebody else, and if you know who it was, please shout them out and credit them for it. But somebody was chatting about the possibility of Inamura being like a midfielder under Nancy, profile-wise and stuff. So Inamura's got some potential with the changing of regime at the club. But I don't think he's going to get in the team here. Obviously, it'll be Tierney to start, the international hero that he is. Bernardo was in training, but again, I don't think he's going to be in the reckoning because the last two midfields, we had McGregor, McKeown, and Hitate, the wee guy midfield, as I like to call it. And before that, quite effectively as well, we had Engels and Negren and McGregor, which just felt like the Martin O'Neill, Sean Maloney midfield when they first came in, and it worked really well. Now, Negren's top scorer in the team. Hitate was brilliant in the last match. McKeown played this job very, very well in the last match as well. But Engels came off the bench and was a monster, and again, was very, very good before going to the bench. So I think the midfield is a huge question mark coming in for this one. We could see maybe a hybrid combination, but I don't think so. I think Martin O'Neill, Sean Maloney, Fotheringham, whoever's kind of pulling the strings in the construction of this team, I think we're going to see some consistency in selection. And I think because of the physicality element, I think he's probably going to go with Engels and Negren coming back into this one, with Hitate and McKeown being the first protocol, the first order off the bench to kind of change things up. Now, Johnny Kenny is going to be the man up front, it feels like. I don't think we've got the depth on the right wing to not start Dyson Maeda. St Mirren, don't let where they are on the table fool you. This is a massive game for us. And I didn't see Shin Yamada in training. I went and double checked it again. Didn't see him, and I didn't see somebody else. I forget, but I didn't actually see Shin Yamada in training. Balikwisha. Now I don't know about you guys, right? But see, every time I've watched the training videos, Balikwisha always seems to have a good time. He's always like he's maybe chatting to Engels, he's having a bit of a laugh and a joke and whatever. I was looking at him today, and I was like, yeah, I could maybe understand why a manager wouldn't be vibing with this guy's training demeanor. But you know, when you see the training drills going, you can tell he's really good on the ball and stuff like that. Could he maybe come into the reckoning somehow, maybe from the bench later on in the game? Perhaps. Taneke was in the building and looking sharp, didn't travel for international duty, and I think he's good to go. Youngster was in training as well, and Martin O'Neill has joined the Yang gang, so we maybe get him from the bench as well. Who do we think maybe comes off? We maybe see for the Ralston, maybe Hatate, McKeown, Balikwisha. I don't think we've seen Shin. Maybe go to Yang, and then we play Maeda through the middle, perhaps. So I think, like these 4 subs are probably likely to feature in the game, and then it's kind of one of the rest, isn't it? But this will be the 11. We'll try and get Tierney up and at it, supporting Taneke, Kenny being the poacher, Negren being second forward off the ball, or maybe even Dyson being second forward at times. Negren can cover, Engels can cover. The midfield's been tight together, wee bit of give and go, 3 passes and shoot. Remember that game against Falkirk? 3 passes and shoot. That's what we're after in this one. And JFP can play that way. The midfield can play that way. I'm looking forward to it. If we take this away from the screen, this is how St Mirren are expected to line up. It's displayed as a 3-5-2. But I think if we can move probably Mandarin, Richardson and Declan John are very much going to be flying up and down the wings. And I think between the midfielders, they'll be kind of on a spring to come out and try and press a little bit. And we're going to expect to see, their forward maybe try and kill passing lanes and just occupy some really difficult space for us to build out on and really ask big questions of our other players to drop into pockets to make combination play with one another. But I think this team, unlike any other team that Stephen Robinson has played in terms of a Celtic, is we are going to go through the middle of the pitch, and I'm not sure that's something that their boys will be able to handle. They will be expecting it to go out into the wide areas, out into the sides very often. They'll be preparing for that all day, every day. Kenny's shown, I think he can buy a yard. He can get an inch on defenders and get tap-ins and penalty, fox in the box, striker, tap-in goals type thing. And I kind of trust him to do that. But I think against the 3 in the back, to make aiming for him with crosses the primary thing to do, also a bit risky, borderline redundant. So I really want to see some attack, some cut, some invention through the middle of the pitch in this one. Just with the players we've got, the play style we've seen in the Sean Maloney, Martin O'Neill team so far. McGregor will be a big part of that as well. Getting McGregor actually into the box and really causing those overloads because again, when they see guys like McGregor and or Engels, depending on how the game does kind of pan out, getting right into the box, that's when the rest of their team just collapse. Right in on itself. And then from there, that's when Johnny Kenny now is a worthwhile striker. That's when Dyson Maeda is threatening. Negren has been scoring his goals from these types of situations. And then, who else do you want to throw into the mix with it? So I think we want a little bit more of cutting invention through the middle. We want midfield runners causing panic, making everyone turn and run back to their own goal. And then can you play the ball quickly? Can you take your chances? Can you find your man peeling away and make things happen, I suppose, is the way I'm thinking of it here. That's what I want to see in this game. Could be a big one for Tierney, national hero. Does Schmeichel get booed or something? Do the St Mirren fans give Schmeichel some stick? That could be kind of funny. Maybe not for longer than like a minute, but I think this will be a tough game. It'll be a good game. And I think if this is the back 3, I can see us getting a clean sheet in this. I wouldn't really rule that out. Do we score more than 2 or 3 goals? I would really like to think so. We've got into the vein of scoring under Martin O'Neill again. And I think if we have national hero Tierney, Tuneke, who's had 2 weeks off, some buzz for him. He's had a good season, good growth period for him. Negren's had, a bit of international duty. Dyson the same. Kenny has had his own kind of moments, isn't he? He's kind of emerging in his career. There's enough going on in the team where I think they've got not just a point to prove, but they've got a bit of form to deliver on as well. And yeah, I think we could score 2 or 3. I'm going to go for Celtic to. I'm going to go for us to win this 3-0. Yeah, I'm going to go with a wee 3-0. I think this could be a Tunecki match. Again, 2 weeks off for the kid. I know he was kind of banged up. Maybe he wasn't in perfect condition for it, but I think this could be Tunecki's moment. And again, wouldn't the board just love that? Who was it defended? Yeah, Gogic. Yeah, Gogic is just like sweeper, you know, like we'll just confront. He's free to go and engage the ball, step into midfield. We'll cover the offside trap and just go back and kill it. And he's got a bit of freedom to do that. And these fullbacks, if he has going to rest in, again, they've got the freedom to maybe go on and be the outlet for an attack or for a transition. And we need to be mindful of watching out for that. But I do think for the form they're in, the situation they're in, how strong our team is, and this is like, even if we imagine we played a wee guy midfield, and we played McGregor, McKeown and Hatate, if we really play front foot and we're throwing either McGregor overlapping Hatate or McKeown, you know, because they were really good at that, the two of them, they were really good at that. And again, I think you could just scare the living daylights out of them. I think the wee guy midfield doesn't work. It doesn't work, but I don't think that will be selected for St Mirren away. I think it will be Engels and the Gren. But I think this could be overkill. Like if you really got the bit between the teeth for these 3 guys really raring to go and play football down on the deck, free passes and shoot. Tunecki and Tierney raiding down the left, essentially Dyson and Kenny in the box. Like that's a good way to play for me. Yeah, I think the players should be able. Again, I think the Celtic away section is infamous at this point. Of course, I think they're going to get there. There'll be some sack the board chance, whatever. But we'll be singing Kieran Tierney songs. We'll be singing all of them very quickly as soon as a ball is kicked and people start passing it about, tackling, shooting, crossing, and doing all that good stuff. And the players will feed off that. I would go along with that overall, but I do think the last game he did pop. But Engels came off the bench and probably kept in front of him, I think, as well. Kendrick Larsson, Johnny Kenny, love that. Hat-trick tomorrow. 3-1, 2-1, 2-0. If you're watching this after we've been live, feel free to leave it in the comment section as well. The blog writers will be on the wrong side when it comes to a conclusion. What does that mean, Michael McDonald? Celtic forever. That's it. Celtic forever. That's what it's all about. The institution, following the club, back in the club through everything, all the way through it all. Thanks everyone that's tuned in. This is the little preview segment for St Mirren. And yeah, I hope the Hoops. Yeah, I'm going for 3-0 is what I'm going for. See what you guys think in the chat. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in today. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on the AGM. Sadly, I think any kind of little faint hope that we had of the people behind the curtain at Celtic, like being fully cognizant of why people are upset, it's kind of gone, isn't it? Like they are burying their hands in the sand, blind to it, whatever. Celtic, like, look at the investment that bloody Bloom has made in Hearts and the gap he's caught up. And yeah, Celtic fans are never going to sit here and say we should try and plan on winning the Champions League, right? But like, we're in the Europa League this year and there's no chance that we're winning it. Surely we should be building ourselves up to the stage where, like, the anything is possible season in the Champions League is something you could wildly dream about. And hey, do you know what? If you find yourself in the Europa League for some crazy reason, we're in it to win it. And we didn't approach it that way at all, because the squad, regardless of what competition we were in, as you can see now with the squad we have in the Europa League, needed a lot of business done and shouldn't have been handled the way it did. And again, I think we're kind of rehashing other stuff, but I think all the kind of hope of, oh no, they really get it, and in the January window they're going to fix everything, or they'll fix a lot of it, I don't know, I'm less confident on now, sadly. And you hope that they are further, they've got further conviction, to be right and to go and work harder and really try and get Celtic back up to where we were like fucking 10 months ago, and get it sustained up at that level. And I hope that's what comes of this and it's not something else, because if it isn't that, from that response today, again, that response today, the failing of the transfer window, the failing of the club Champions League qualifiers and everything else that's went on, that's all been spoken about, like the custodian, a custodian has to change, if not multiple ones. I think you could just agree with that. You know, like nobody's saying anyone is deliberately doing bad or is deliberately a bad person or anything like that. But this is everyone trying their hardest and working tirelessly night and day, and we're lucky to have them, and they're great Celtic people. Fine. But, you know, right, your shot's over. You know, pass the pad. You know, it's kind of where it's at now, isn't it? And I think that's kind of the reality of it. And failing to recognise that, and then not adding in this January, we're going to make it right, or coming into the next summer, we will not repeat these mistakes. We will be steadfast in the approach of making sure that we do da-da-da-da-da. It's all kind of, we're not going to be bullied and vocational anti-establishment people, and you know, it's like that's not it, man. You know. Anyway, thanks to everyone who tuned in today. Really appreciate it. If you're going to the game, travel safe, have a great time. Wherever you're watching the game, I hope you have a great time. Of course, hail, and Moan the Hoops. Oh, by the way, the winger video will be out. I'll probably put it out tomorrow. So thanks to everyone that hit the like button on the striker video, and I hope you enjoy the winger equivalent one that comes out tomorrow morning. As long as I like the edit. And yeah, I guess that's where I'm at, Gavy boy.